Thanks for joining us, and let's jump right into it. First and foremost, we'd just like to start with the baseline of what is financial aid. And really, financial aid is so much more than just free money that is offered through the FAFSA. FAFSA is one of those ways that we can offer you aid. It's one of the things that we're going to talk about quite a bit tonight. But just remember, financial aid in general is going to be anything from scholarships that the university offers or outside organizations, student loans, anything that's assisting in covering that cost. Sometimes that could be work study, sometimes that could be parent loans or private loans. We're going to talk about several of those, some of those need-based, some of those merit-based um, uh, financial aid options. But want to make sure that you have that understanding that financial aid is this really big umbrella. It covers many different aspects. So when we talk about financial aid or financial aid planning, we're talking about all of those different areas. And so that's exactly what we're going to talk about tonight is what are the specific different types of financial aid? We want to start learning that vocab and start understanding that vocabulary. So as we go into the season of financial aid packages being released, which we'll talk about that as well, we understand and we can recognize those different aspects, how and where to apply for financial aid. We're going to talk about that a little bit. The biggest part that's coming early next semester in the spring is going to be reviewing and comparing financial aid offers. We understand the cost of college is an important consideration in your college search process, and so we're going to have a really great document. I have a couple last year's financial aid overview that we can look at a little bit as well, just for you to get a little familiar with it. And then ultimately, what happens after you reviewed it is you're actually going to have to take action on your financial aid. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit too. So let's walk through the process. If you are joining with us right now, hopefully you've kind of started moving your way through this process. But at Maryville specific, the process is simple. You can apply online. It's free. The Maryville application online, maryville.edu/apply or Common App. You're also going to need to submit your high school transcripts to us. That can come from you directly, or it can come from your high school counselor. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about submitting the FAFSA. It is one of the most important documents and forms that you can submit to us to make sure that we're getting you the most amount of financial aid as possible. December 1st is the priority date for a lot of our scholarships. There are still several scholarships that we offer that are still available now after December 1st. General rule of thumb is just go ahead and apply and send us your transcripts, and we're going to make sure that we can get you the most amount of scholarship money as possible. And then ultimately, once you decide that Maryville is the place that you want to be, you're going to submit an advanced tuition payment through that acceptance email of $250. That $250 is fully refundable until May 1st of 2026 for any of our fall 2026 students. But that's going to unlock the housing application for you, as well as it's going to allow you to register for classes when we start doing that in the spring. If you are a student that is wanting to live on campus, we do not require students to live on campus. And so with that being said, housing is kind of, especially for preference, is first come, first serve. So if you're like, okay, I know that if I end up at Maryville in August, I want to live in Mouton Hall. Okay, great. We just need you to submit your housing application early so that we can make that happen. Building assignments are going to be released pretty soon for anybody that has already submitted their housing application. So you'll have a good idea going into the holiday break or right after holiday break what building you've been assigned to. And then you can count down the days until you become a saint, my favorite part. All right, let's talk about types of financial aid. Financial aid is broken down in that big umbrella of financial aid. We break it down into two categories. We have need-based financial aid, and then we have merit-based financial aid. So need-based financial aid is going to be any financial aid, typically coming from the FAFSA, but is specific to something, data that we receive from the FAFSA. For example, grants, loans, some of our loans that the university offer are need-based, and then work study. Merit-based is just based off of the merit in general of how well your student's doing GPA-wise or athletic ability or stuff like that. And we'll give you some examples of those. And most commonly, those are scholarships. So those are the two basic categories that we have for you there. Like I said, already gave you some of these. Merit-based scholarships could be offered by us here at the university, but also do not forget, we are headed into a season of outside scholarships. What do I mean by that? We're going to give you some great examples of some great resources to look at some outside scholarship providers. But December going into early spring, January, February, March, that is when every organization, every private organization, religious organization, school, foundation is going to be offering their outside scholarships. Outside scholarship money can be used at Maryville, right? And so we want to make sure that you are definitely doing the work of applying for those outside scholarships, because those $500 or $1,000 or $2,500 scholarships, they add up really, really quickly. And so we want to make sure that you're getting the most amount of money as possible. Like I said, it could be based on many different ways, not just GPA. So the merit-based scholarships that Maryville offers. If you've applied and been accepted to Maryville, your student, or you, the student, will get an acceptance email from us, from your admissions counselor here at Maryville. Now, what many people overlook is there's a document attached to that acceptance email. If you open up that document attached to your acceptance email, it is going to say, hey, congratulations. You've been awarded XYZ scholarship, automatic scholarship. That could be the Saint Scholarship, the Big Red Scholarship, or the Maryville Opportunity Award. Those are based off your GPA or ACT, SAT score. We are a test optional university. I always like to say to students, there's really not a scenario where an ACT or SAT score could hurt you at Maryville. Send it to us, don't send it to us, completely up to you. We're going to use whatever's in your favor. We use weighted GPA, all those things. These scholarships are fully renewable for 5 years or a bachelor's degree, whichever one comes first, as long as you maintain a 2.5 GPA. Maintain a 2.5, keep your money. Athletic scholarships, you need to work with the athletic coach directly on those. Design and visual arts scholarship for any of our DVA students, graphic design, interior design, photography, interactive design. I'm forgetting a few as well, and I apologize. Game design. When you get accepted to the university, in your acceptance email, in that attachment, is going to talk about submitting a portfolio. It's optional, but there is additional scholarship money. It's typically 10 to 20 pieces of artwork that you worked on during high school that you're passionate about that you can submit online, and we'll review those. A lot of these scholarships, you can read all the details about them at maryville.edu/scholarships, or you can always reach out to your admissions counselor, and we're happy to answer those questions as well. The big thing to remember about merit-based scholarships, and I'm going to give you some organizations that we trust and that we've worked with quite a bit. But the big thing to remember is if you're looking at private outside scholarships, if at any point that private outside scholarship says, hey, there's a $50 application fee or a $100 application fee or $25 to submit this private scholarship, it is not like, first of all, Maryville, it's free to apply. We understand that some colleges do charge to apply to the university. Scholarship providers, you should not trust scholarship providers that are charging you to submit their application. It is not a good return on investment. Even if they are offering you a scholarship, most likely they are only offering one scholarship, and it is, a low amount compared to how many people paid into it. So there are thousands and thousands of scholarships that you can apply for that you don't need to pay for. So I typically tell students, please avoid paying to apply for any outside scholarships. All right. Two of our really big competitive scholarships. You're going to, students that have been accepted to the university that meet these qualifications, you're going to start getting a lot more communication from us here in the upcoming weeks before holiday break. So that's the two big ones are the presidential and the trustee scholarship. If you, the student, is sitting at a 3.75 cumulative GPA or higher, weighted or unweighted, or the ACT SAT score of a 27 or 1290, you're more than likely, our priority date for application was December 1st. But as long as you have those things on file, you've been accepted, and you meet those qualifications, you're more than likely going to receive an invitation from us to your email that we have on file. So whatever personal email that you have on file, here in the upcoming weeks that says, hey, we invite you to come and compete for these scholarships. The process is pretty simple. Select, there's 2 different weekends you can choose from. Select which weekend you want to attend. And then you, the student, you're going to do a 30-minute interview with a faculty or staff member and a current scholar. The 3 of you, 30 minutes. That's how we give away a lot of these scholarships. If you are on the edge about if Maryville is the right fit for you, great event to come to. If you're 100% certain Maryville is where you want to go, make sure that if you're getting that email invitation, you are signing up for a time to compete. These are some really great scholarships that we give away. And these, once again, are fully renewable as well. So same thing as those automatic scholarships. So as long as you maintain that GPA, everything like that, those are fully renewable as well. Perfect. Before we move on to need-based, I'll give just a second to see if there's any questions or anything. I think we're killing it, but if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in there. All right. The need-based application process in general for 99.99% of students here at the university is going to be the FAFSA. Fun trivia fact. I don't know if you're going to any trivia nights that are financial aid based, but FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It did open up a little early this year. Knock on wood, that was a good thing. But typically speaking, we're back to October 1st is when the FAFSA opens every year. And once again, you must submit the FAFSA every year. So make sure that you make a note of that. My recommendation to you, depending on what state you live in, there's some varying deadlines of submitting the FAFSA. A general rule of thumb is FAFSA money is not like a lot of Maryville scholarship money. It does run out. It is first come, first serve. The FAFSA has gotten remarkably easier to complete. And I'll show you a couple of screenshots of an example form here in a little bit. We'll click through it here in just a second. General rule of thumb takes about 15 to 30 minutes for the student to submit their portion of the FAFSA. About the same amount of time for the parent to or contributor to submit their portion. You should try to get that done over holiday break before the new year. That's going to give us time to get that information. It's going to give us time to process that information and then get you out a financial aid package kind of quickly after that. So please, if you haven't already, please make sure you submit that to us. If you have done the FAFSA, but you're not 100% sure if you listed Maryville on there, go back to studentaid.gov and then you can go to add schools and check to make sure that we're on that list. We're going to take a step back for just a second. A couple people have asked how many presidential and trustee scholarships do we give out? It depends. What we typically say is we give away one presidential scholarship per year. That's what we've historically done. The amount of trustee scholarships depends on the quality of the applicant pool. So depending on how many interviews we have, how many quality candidates we have, that can vary a little bit. It's one of those things that should not deter you from coming and competing because there are going to be so many other activities, events, stuff like that you're going to do while you're here during that scholarship competition besides a 30-minute interview, that it's a really, really great event to attend. So depends every year how many we give away exactly, but that's the general rule of thumb. Someone asked if you're if you're an undecided major or still deciding major, but accepted to the university, can you still qualify for scholarships? Yes. All scholarships you're eligible for all scholarships that we talked about, besides maybe the design and visual arts scholarship. You need to declare your major as a DVA student before we could offer you that scholarship. FAFSA question. If you're a divorced family, does each parent have to fill out the FAFSA form? The FAFSA has made it remarkably easier. Now, if the student goes and starts the FAFSA, it's going to ask them some basic questions, and I'll show you here in a little bit, maybe a few screenshots of are your parents married or divorced? And it's going to ask them maybe 3 or 4 questions, and then it's going to tell the student, hey, you need parent A or parent B, or you need both parents to submit the FAFSA. So it depends on several factors, including which parent provides the most amount of financial support. So if it's 50-50, that could be both parents. It just depends. I recommend having the student go through the FAFSA and it will tell them which or both parents need to submit the FAFSA. All right, really quick. When you submit the FAFSA, it is going to give you a FAFSA submission page. And so this is the general overview. It's going to give you a rough understanding of what you might be eligible for. And so it's a good rule of thumb to understand that this is some great information that studentaid.gov can provide the student. But once again, it is just an estimate. Every student, or sorry, every school has to receive your FAFSA and process that FAFSA and calculate it based off of their cost to actually determine what you're eligible for. So while this is a great kind of rough estimate, please make sure that you're looking for the actual documentation from Maryville or any other schools that you're applying to, so that you know specifically what you're qualified for at that university. And I need to click. There we go. Another thing to be looking for on that FAFSA submission page is your student aid index, also known as your SAI score. This is the score, the index score that each university is going to use to calculate eligibility. It goes from negative 1,500 all the way up to 999,999. So it can be anywhere on that scale. It's not it's not correlated to dollars or anything like that. It is literally just a score. So think of a range, and it just puts you on that range, and it tells us important information about how to prepare your financial aid package. So just know that we'll get that information, but it's kind of good to know what your SAI score is, just as a general rule of thumb. If you're in, we have a question here. If your income is higher than the typical year in 2024, is there a way to update income? Yes. So FAFSA, this is a two-part question here. FAFSA is based off of prior year, which basically means that we're using your 2024 tax return to calculate your FAFSA formula. If you had various scenarios that happened in 2024, like you made more income than you typically do, what I always tell families is just complete the FAFSA and send it to any school that you're interested in. Just start there. Don't worry about switching things up. Don't worry about, oh, how do I put in there that I made different income? Just fill out all the questions, answer them truthfully based off your 2024 taxes. It'll pull in most of the information if you're doing it right. And then once it's processed and once you get the first financial aid package from Maryville, that's when you reach out to me or your specific admissions counselor and say, hey, we don't think this is actually accurate because I made more money in 2024 than I am in 2025 or 2026. And that is when we can actually readjust your financial aid package based off of a more recent tax year. So just as a quick recap, always just submit the FAFSA as is. And then after it's submitted, that's when you reach out to us and we can make changes at that point. Somebody asked, we've already submitted the FAFSA. When do we expect to receive a financial aid package letter? We're shooting for right after the holidays in January timeframe to get those all processed in the first financial aid package out to you. So that should be done right around that timeframe. All right. Just some basic vocab here, right? There's three different main types of need-based funding: grants, which is free money; loans, which is money that a student might have to pay back. As a general reminder, though, loans that are offered through the FAFSA, they do not require a cosigner, and a lot of times they're competitive interest rates, as well as they don't go into repayment until 6 months after graduation. So a great way for a student to build their credit score. It doesn't bog down your credit report, and there's a lot of flexibility with those. And then work study, that changes year to year based off of federal funding, but there typically speaking is work study opportunities as well. And we'll talk more about that in the new year when we have financial aid packages processed through. All right, here's, like I promised you, some external scholarship providers. If you are a Missouri resident, myscholarshipcentral.org should be your best friend. Those are Missouri-specific scholarships, but for any outside of Missouri area, fastweb.com, collegeboard.org, even the Scholarship Foundation of St. Louis, scholarships.com, those are all going to be really great resources for a lot of students, whether you're a Missouri resident or not. But My Scholarship Central is a Missouri-specific scholarship, found our Missouri-specific database of scholarships. But take a picture of that if you haven't. This is also recorded and will be posted for you to review at any time as well. But also, here's what I always forget on this slide. Don't overlook the fact that you probably should be going to your high school counselor first or your college counselor, depending on what your high school has. I work with high school counselors all across Missouri, Illinois, all over the place, and you would be surprised how many scholarships do not get awarded every year because students don't submit a 5-minute application or don't stop by the office to grab the application. If your student hasn't been pestering your high school counselor or college counselor about when scholarships come out, they need to go chat with them. They are a great resource. They're going to have hundreds of scholarships, if not more, for your student to view and look at. So start there as well, not just these online databases. All right, let's take a second to look at a financial aid overview from this past year, just so you have a general understanding of what that looks like. And then we might spend a little time looking at the a couple FAFSA screenshots as well. I have those pulled up as well. But the biggest thing to remember when you get a financial aid overview from us, you're going to need to figure out net price. What does that mean? Well, Maryville's tuition and fees is not the exact same tuition as fees as XYZ University or XYZ University that your student might be looking at. So it's not a good idea to just sit there and say, oh, Maryville's tuition is more than this state school, but it's less than this private school. So Maryville's in the middle for cost. It's not you can't think of it that way. You have to take cost minus scholarships minus other financial aid and actually look at what that bottom dollar is. Because a lot of times, Maryville, yes, our tuition might be right here, but we're offering some generous scholarships and some generous financial aid, which will most of the time make us more affordable than a lot of other colleges if you actually calculate down to that base price. And we'll show you that as well. We'll talk a little bit about direct and indirect costs on the financial aid overview. But once again, the final thing to say is I understand that affordability of college is extremely important, but we also have to remember that we need to have this investment mindset. Think about your house or appliances or a car or something like that. Cheapest is not always the best or the best quality. And so we really want you to also have that mindset of like, we want you to be thinking about, okay, I'm investing in my education, and what is that return on investment? Well, I'd say a lot of times that return on investment is our career success rate, how well we can help you get into a career after graduation, our student experience, our active learning ecosystem, all of those different things all play into that. And so we're hoping that you're considering that as well in your decision-making process. All right, let me click over really quickly. I'll stop sharing for just a second and pull up a financial aid overview really quickly. Perfect. All right. Yes, great. So in the new year, when our financial aid overviews come out, first of all, you can see this is the 2025-2026 financial aid overview. So this is a past year financial aid overview. Always check to make sure this is your student's information or your information. You will notice that your specific admissions counselor's information is listed right here. My specific email will actually be listed here. I just have the general financial aid email listed here for now, but you should be reaching out to me directly if I'm your admissions counselor. And the reason is because I will be meeting with you. I will be talking through that process. I'll be taking notes, and I want to make sure that I have a good understanding of what your plans are. And so be reaching out to me directly, and I can help you through that process. I'll serve as your financial aid counselor as an incoming student. So when your financial aid overview, we look at direct costs. And what do we mean by that? Well, direct costs are actually costs that the university is going to bill you for. In the official financial aid package, there will be some information about indirect costs. And indirect cost is just notification from the federal government that says, hey, there are some other costs associated with going to college than just tuition and fees. Prime example, if your student is a commuter, an indirect cost would be gas for their car, right? Is Maryville going to pay for your student's gas as a commuter student? No, right? We're not going to bill you for gas. You're responsible for your own gas. However, are you going to have to get gas as a student to commute to campus? Yes. So that is an indirect cost, right? Maryville's not billing you for that, but the federal government wants you to know just because you pay tuition and fees doesn't mean that the rest of your life is free, right? If you eat off campus, that's an indirect cost, right? Stuff like that. What we show you in your financial aid overview is your direct cost, what Maryville's going to actually bill you. So for a lot of students, that's tuition and fees, as well as on-campus housing and meals if you choose to live on campus. If when you applied to applied to Maryville, you said you're not living on campus, then we wouldn't put on-campus housing meals on here. But we'll give you your direct costs. Then depending on your FAFSA, everything like that, we'll put your scholarships and grants on there. We'll give you your total cost, your estimated cost after scholarships and grants. We'll give you your student loan opportunities. We'll give you your total cost after loans. We'll show you other potential loan opportunities, work study. And then down here gets into like Maryville has some really great payment plan options. We have a great third party, not for profit. If you're looking for outside loans or private loans, stuff like that, a really great source to look at those. And then this is the biggest one. Down here is some great important next steps, including, I think somebody asked this question earlier that already got answered, but we offer one-on-one financial aid appointments in person, on Zoom, or a phone call for you, your family, your guests, your supporters, whomever. And so you can schedule that right there through the financial aid overview. And so that's what you'll be looking for here in the next semester. We send these financial aid overviews to 2 locations. We send it to the email the student put on their FAFSA as well as their Maryville University email. So we'll be sending you some information beginning in the new year about how to access your Maryville University email if you prefer to view this through your Maryville University email, or you can just view it through the email that you listed on the FAFSA. Speaking of FAFSA, I want to spend just a few minutes on this, and then if there's any more questions or anything like that, we'll take those. But for anybody that hasn't completed the FAFSA, the 26-27 FAFSA, it is still obviously available. You should do it before end of December to get, or to your best case scenario of getting the most amount of financial aid. If you are a spring 2026 student or you're wanting to take spring 2026 classes, that would be the 25-26 FAFSA. See, right down here it says 25-26 FAFSA. That's there. For all of our fall 26, spring 27 students, the 2026-2027 FAFSA is going to be for you. Obviously, either a party can start the FAFSA, student or parent. We'll just say you're the student. You should probably read through all these disclaimers. I probably have read through these disclaimers about 10 times today already, so I'm going to skip through them. It talks about after submitting the FAFSA, by the way, we talked about that a little bit already. It's going to ask you general information. It's going to ask you information about where you live. If you've lived in like Missouri forever, you just put month and year of your birth. And here we go. This is new to the FAFSA as of last year, is the FAFSA can directly pull your information from the IRS. However, you have to consent to that. And so that's right down here. Basically, after all of this information down here, you can approve or decline. If you decline, it is going to ask you to pull out your 2024 tax return and then manually fill in all that information. And there is a chance that you're going to get selected for verification where you actually have to bring that information into the university and prove that what you put into the FAFSA was correct. If you click approved, it's going to look like this right here. For a majority of you, we're looking for it to say this right here, success. We've confirmed your information with the IRS. If it does not say that, there is a chance that maybe, and this is a prime example, if you, the student or parent or contributor, just created a studentaid.gov account like today, and then you go try to submit the FAFSA, a lot of times the FAFSA actually hasn't linked to the IRS yet or the Social Security Administration, so it can't pull your data. So what you can do is if it says that it's unsuccessful right now, you can either manually enter the information from your tax return or just log out, wait 24, 48 hours, log back in, go back to the FAFSA, and most likely it's going to say success when you walk through this. So since it was successful for us, we don't have to put in really any information about your tax return or anything like that. Once again, you have to fill out some basic information. Remember, I'm the student, so I'm filling this out as the student. Pretty straightforward. It's going to ask some personal circumstances, and then it's going to determine if you're an independent or dependent student. So you're going to click through that. It has determined that I am a dependent student, which means I'm going to need a parent or contributor or contributors to fill out information for me. This just says, it's a very interesting question. It's just if you would only want to be considered for loans through the FAFSA. If a lot of times people say no to see if they're actually eligible for free money. So if you say no, we can check to see if you're actually eligible for free money. This is going to go into your basic background information, right? I'm just going to click through these to get through them. I don't even know how many of are required. Citizenship status. And then we get into parent information. And then once we get through this, I'll show you what we are talking about. So it's going to ask you to pull up your high school information. The other big one is colleges, and that's where you're going to want to list all the colleges that you're interested in, and then contributor invite down here in step 5. That's basically where you're going to put in the name and email of, it's going to tell you if you need one parent, two parents, or both parents, and you can put in their information there. It'll send out the invite, and then you'll be good to go. All right, I'm not going to click through all that just because I don't want to take the 15 or 20 minutes to do that, but I am happy to answer any other questions that you all might have. If not, we are going to wrap up. Let me get to the right screen here. There we go. Perfect. A few more minutes here. Well, while we're seeing if any more questions come in, I just want to say on behalf of everybody here at Maryville, especially the Office of Admissions, we're grateful for you joining us tonight. I know that sometimes financial aid might not be the most interesting topic of discussion, but we appreciate you taking some time out of your evening. We are here to serve as a resource for you. So whether it's housing questions, billing questions, financial aid questions, admissions questions, reach out to that admissions counselor. We're going to answer those questions for you. The dates of the scholarship competition weekend. Do I know those? Yes, I do. Give me just a second. It's the last weekend in January, or the second weekend in February. So that's going to be January 30th, 31st, or February 13th, 14th, I believe. It's also on our website if you go to maryville.edu/visits. And then we'll also send all of that information out to you as well whenever you get the invitation. Do you have any information on the Game Changer Scholarship? Information on that scholarship has been sent to students. The priority date to apply for that scholarship has already passed. If you did receive if you did apply before the deadline, your student would have received an email to complete a one-way interview. Your student needs to complete that one-way interview before December 10th, end of day December 10th, so tomorrow. So we're on a tight turnaround. So if your student's missing that information, anything like that, reach out to your admissions counselor, and we're happy to resend all of that. Do we have to attend both days of the scholarship competition and stay overnight? Nope. We offer a Friday afternoon session, a Saturday morning, or a Saturday afternoon session. We do offer a reception Friday night, though. It's a pretty good time, not gonna lie. Would love for you to attend that, but definitely not required. And then I think Shawnee's also answering the questions about the dates. Hopefully I got them right. I'm pretty sure I did. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great rest of your evening, and we look forward to hearing from you all in the future, and look forward to supporting you any way that we can. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.